Looking to make some punts in Game Week 20? Stick with me, I've got 5 options for you. First up is a man that I mentioned in the video I did, players to buy and avoid. It's Mitoma from Brighton. He started Brighton's last 3 Premier League games, returned in 2 of them. From my opinion, he absolutely passes the eye test. He looks really exciting. Did in the World Cup as well, playing for Japan. Unfortunately, they played him at left back, so we couldn't quite see all of Mitoma at the World Cup because he was stuck at left back basically. But he's looked really good for Brighton on the return from the World Cup. He's returned in 2 of the 3 games that he's played for them. And yeah, he just looks really good. The manager has been a bit of negative talk about Trossard in terms of the fitness and the effort that he's putting in after returning for the World Cup. And I think that only plays into Mitoma's hands, that he's going to have more of a bigger role for Brighton in the future as well. He's got a possible double in 21. Again, I'm putting this video out before we know the results of all the Cup games before Game Week 20. So we're not entirely sure what's happening with the fixtures. But regardless of whether he gets a double or not, I think at 4.9 million, he's still a great option. And yeah, it says there his ownership is between 0.6 and 0.7% ownership at the moment. It's ridiculous. I think it will go up a little bit going into Game Week 20, just because quite a few content creators are now mentioning him. But yeah, made a video earlier mentioning him as well. But yeah, I just think he's a great option. Looks really exciting, and this is what FPL is all about, in my opinion. You know, finding that little hidden gem and him scoring points. excuse me, when no one else has him. So Mitoma, definitely a differential for Game Week 20. Again, another player that I mentioned in a video I made earlier as well, but I can't not mention him when we're talking about differentials. It's Heung-min Son. I think if you were to tell me last season that Son going into a double game week was only 6% owned, I wouldn't believe you. But yeah, obviously he's not had a season this year anywhere near the level that he was last season. He won the Golden Boot, for heaven's sake, but he's got a decent record against Arsenal and a decent one against Man City as well, the 2 fixtures that he's going to have in Game Week 20. I think Kulusevski, he might be returned to fitness, but he still doesn't appear to be returned fully. So I think Son is going to play both of these games. And he didn't feature in the Cup game either. So yeah, I think he's in the Cup game against Portsmouth, that is. So I think he's a great option going into Game Week 20. And he's off the back of a goal and an assist in Game Week 19 versus Palace. So I think Son is going to do okay against Arsenal and Man City. And I think as a differential, 6.1% ownership, he's a cracking pick. I think I've mentioned this guy in pretty much every FPL video I've made of recent, but Botman just looks like the best cheap defender in the game at the moment, and he's still only 4% owned. It's ridiculous. Yeah, he's the cheapest starting defender for Newcastle. They're the best defence in the league at the moment. They're off the back of 4 clean sheets. I think they've got a really nice fixture run. Don't have a double in there, but I think 4 of those games you could back them to keep a clean sheet. You know, Fulham, Crystal Palace, West Ham and Bournemouth. Not sure they can against Liverpool, but 20 to 23, I see 4 clean sheets there for Newcastle if they keep this form up. He started the last 11 Premier League games, so there's absolutely no doubt of his nailedness in the team. And yeah, as I said, I think he's the pick of the cheap defenders, and it makes the ideal Reece James or Patterson replacement. 2 players that a lot of people have that have gotten injured recently. Next up, I think his name is Nathan Ferguson. I only know him as Ferguson because that's all the information you get in FPL, but he looks like a really good option in my opinion. Danny Welbeck's injured at the moment. The manager has been bigging him up and praising him publicly. Similar sort of vibe to Mitoma really in terms of the double in 21. I think a 4.5 million striker you can back to start at the moment for Brighton. It looks like he's favoured to keep playing up front. He's got 3 returns in the 100 minutes of Premier League football that he's played so far. It gives me sort of like Marcus Rashford vibes when he bursts onto the scene for Man United. I think it's his place to lose in that team at the moment. I really do. And for 4.5 million, possible double for Brighton in 21, 3 returns in 100 minutes. I think he's a great option and a really nice differential. And just like Mitoma, I think he is just the absolute bee's knees for FPL, really. That's the kind of player you want to pick, isn't it? You know, a player that no one has in their team, 0.7% ownership, and could score well. And finally, John Stones from Man City finishes off the list. I think, in my opinion, he is playing the best out of all of the Man City defenders at the moment. And I think Pep is also seeing that as well. And I think he in my opinion, he's probably the most nailed of all those Man City defenders. I mean, obviously, previously you would have said Cancelo is, but Rico Lewis is playing for them now. Cancelo seems to be down the pecking order. And if you want to get yourself a Man City defender for 20 and 23, obviously they've got 2 doubles coming up. I think if you don't have one at the moment or looking to sell Cancelo, I think you could downgrade Cancelo to John Stones or buy John Stones if you don't own anyone. I think he's got the chance of playing the most minutes in game weeks 20 and 23. And on top of Cancelo, he saves you 1.9 million as well that you can invest elsewhere. So I think John Stones is my pick. 2.2% ownership, so he's definitely a differential. He's currently my pick of those Man City defenders. And that concludes the video. Hopefully that gives you an idea of some differentials to look at. Obviously, I can't go into too much detail about 20 yet because we just don't know the fixtures. But I think regardless of what fixtures come up or don't, I think those players are all good picks. So regardless of what happens in the coming days with the Cup games and the Premier League fixtures, I think this video should stand the test of time. And these players look like really good differentials. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like rating on the video, subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, and I'll be back with another FPL video very soon. See you in the next one.